All right, let's get started. Welcome to tonight's show. My name is Alexa. I'm your head of online community here at Housecall Pro. I'm joined by my co-host, Roland. He's the co-founder of Housecall Pro, and Mel, who is our senior vice president of people. You can think of us as your in-house marketing, business, and HR experts. So each evening at 5 p.m. Pacific time, Monday through Thursday, we share the state of the world according to the home service industry. So what's changed since yesterday at 5 p.m. And then we go into the main portion of our show where we dive deep on one main topic and have a really special guest on. So we are so excited to welcome Garry Ridge on tonight. This is going to be an incredible show. He's the CEO of WD-40, and he's here to talk about the key principles that he uses to be an effective leader with this iconic brand. So you will have some awesome takeaways tonight. If you are wondering where to watch past episodes, make sure you head over to our YouTube channel. Just search Housecall Pro, and then coronavirus playlist is the first thing to pop up. And if you're not already, make sure you join the Facebook group. That is where there are over 2,900 pros in there sharing tips and strategies and questions of things that are working, things that are not for them during this time. So as you know, we start off with the state of the world with Mel. She gives you the news from what has happened from 5 p.m. yesterday until now. And then we'll get started with our interview with Garry. So I'm going to pass it over to Mel for our state of the world.
Thank you and good evening. Thanks for joining us, everyone. I'm Melina Fairleigh, Senior Vice President of People at Housecall Pro. Please do feel free to call me Mel. And as Alexa said, we come to you live Monday through Thursday, currently from our homes, to give you a daily recap and to give you guests and advice and inspiration. So as she mentioned, I am not a reporter or a doctor. I'm not an expert in infectious diseases. Rather, I'm a human resources professional with over 20 years of experience. Personally, I'm also a homeowner and a mom of 4 growing and hungry kids and a proud Marine Corps wife. So with that said, here's your evening update for Tuesday, May 5th, 2020. The Johns Hopkins dashboard is reporting 3.6 million global cases and over 250,000 deaths, with more than 1 million recovered as of this afternoon. There's our dashboard. Great, thanks, Roland. Here in the US, there, we still lead the world with 1.2 million cases, and today we reached over 70,000 deaths. We've also celebrated almost 190,000 people recovered. So recoveries are being tracked as well. Yesterday, New York State reported its lowest daily incident since March 18, so that is very good news. Several states, though, across the Midwest and the Plains have recorded increased case counts over the past 2 weeks or so. So that includes Indiana, Iowa, Kansas, Minnesota, and Nebraska, all of which have reported COVID-19 outbreaks at meat processing facilities, which you've probably heard about. In social distancing news, a number of states in the US are beginning to relax some of their social distancing measures implemented under stay-at-home or safer-at-home orders. So Florida began that process yesterday, allowing most of the state's counties to start reopening non-essential businesses with restrictions placed on how they do business. In Michigan, on the other hand, the governor maintained statewide restrictions after the state legislature declined to provide an extension, which prompted protests at the state house, which we've definitely seen protests across the country. Overall, about half of states have eased their restrictions on businesses, but Americans are still feeling a bit uneasy about going back to normal shopping, about patronizing these companies as they open up. So there was a new Washington Post University of Maryland poll that showed that Americans oppose the reopening of restaurants, retail stores, and other non-essential businesses. So specifically, many Americans have been making trips to the grocery store. 56% said that they were comfortable doing that, but 67% said they would be uncomfortable shopping at a retail clothing store. And 78% said they would be uncomfortable eating at a sit-down restaurant.
Yeah, and interestingly, people in states with the looser restrictions are reporting similar levels of this uncomfortableness as those as states with stricter rules. So you'd expect that not to be the case, but it seems to be that regardless of how strict or how loose it is, it's the same level of uncomfort.
Yeah, it seems to be fairly universal. We also heard today from Vice President Pence and later confirmed by President Trump that the White House's coronavirus task force could be disbanded within a month. So that task force, you may remember, is headed by Pence, made up of officials from the administration, lots of experts on the topic. But that task force is getting to the end of its lifespan as we move to more of the business concerns and reopening. So finally, in some promising news, Pfizer is testing multiple versions of an experimental coronavirus vaccine in healthy young people this week, with an ambitious goal of having a vaccine ready for use in higher risk groups by the fall.
All
Roland,
right.
you're going to share us on the trades index?
Yeah, real quickly, this is something that we've been able to put together at Housecall Pro because we have so many home service providers using our software. We have indexed a lot of that data, made it anonymized, but shown some of the trends here for you guys to see. Typically, we share this on Mondays, but today is extra special because we added some more layers of data here for you guys. And the reason why we put this out here is because it's really important to not be emotional, look at data, see where you're at, see where everybody else is at. And it can kind of maybe confirm some suspicions or confirm some of your feelings. But what we've added here, obviously, we have what we've had before, which is our leading indicator and our trailing indicator week over week. So we can see that there's some return in volume of scheduled jobs as well as completed jobs. But what we've added below here is a variance of jobs since week 8. So this breaks it down by week, as well as vertical, as well as by states where we have enough data. So where you can see blue is good and an increase since week 8, which was, kind of off to the start where we started the pandemic versus now. So things that are blue is good. Obviously red is bad and more hit. You can see in some states like New York, for example, a huge hit to the home cleaning. But you can also see some variance here, and landscaping and lawn seems to be a little irregular here on the higher end. Because I think a lot of people are doing recurring jobs, but you can see on HVAC, as temperature heats up, Arizona and California are actually doing much better than week 8. So if you've got some feelings, you can also search not just from scheduled jobs, but completed jobs. So you guys have available to some really interesting data. So you can look by your state, look by your vertical, and kind of see where you're at. So if you guys want to go there, we'll post this link and we'll get back to the show.
Great.
Awesome. So thank you, Mel, Roland, for our state of the world. We're just going to dive right into it with Garry. So today, Gary's here to talk with us about leadership, identifying your leadership style, all things employees, so employee safety, and also how to have your employees take ownership over their work. So I actually want to pass it to Mel to introduce Garry, and maybe Mel, you can talk about the WD-40 giveaway that we have as well.
Absolutely. So it is my absolute pleasure to welcome Garry Ridge, Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of WD-40. So besides being as the CEO of one of the world's most recognizable brands, Garry is truly passionate about learning and organizational culture. I know this firsthand at the University of San Diego. Garry was one of my very most favorite professors in the Master of Science and Executive Leadership program, of which we're both graduates. He also co-authored a book with the iconic Ken Blanchard titled Helping People Win at Work, a business philosophy called Don't Mark My Paper, Help Me Get an A. He's been with WD-40 Company since 1987, so you know he's got some stories to share. And not only has he generously agreed to spend some time with us tonight, but he's also donated a pallet of super cool new WD-40 product that he'll tell us more about a little bit later. This is enough for us to gift some to each and every one of you that's tuning in live tonight. So think of it as our way of saying thank you. Thank you to home services. Thank you to small businesses. Thank you for being out there during this time and doing the work. So more details on that giveaway later. So Garry, welcome. We're so glad you're here.
Thanks, Mel. It's great to be here. And I want to first start by thanking all those pros and artisans out there who are going to work every day to make life a little better for all of us. I often say I'm as handy as an ashtray on a motorbike. So I absolutely need the pros and the artisans to help me with the work. So I appreciate that. You know, maybe I'll start with a little bit history about WD-40 and give a couple of points that could probably win them a beverage at a dinner party. But WD-40 was invented in 1953 right here in San Diego, and it was invented to stop corrosion in the umbilical cord of the Atlas space rocket. The reason it's called WD-40 is the chemists at that time mixed up 39 formulas that didn't work. and the 40th one worked, and it's named water displacement 40th formula. So from that, that product is a secret formula. We've never disclosed the formula. It's never been patented. It's an amazing product, as we all know, and we thank those that use it. I might start with a little journey about the COVID virus for us, because I think it does give a little perspective. This started for us back on January 17th. We actually do have quite an operation in mainland China, and that's when China started to shut down. I was actually in Italy when it started to outbreak in Italy and Europe. So we've been watching countries go into the COVID virus situation and then actually come out the other side. And what's encouraging for us now, our China office is the only office in the world that's actually fully functioning right now. And it's back to about 80 to 90% of the workflow and the order flow over there. Factories are going back to work. They just celebrated their May Day holiday. So we're very interested to see what happens once people go back to work, because there's been a lot of people traveling around in China over the weekend. But then we saw the epicenter move in March into Southern Europe, particularly. I was actually in Sicily, Italy, when it started the outbreak started in Milan, and then over to the UK, and then we've, of course, all experienced it here in the US. And, you know, we acknowledge the pressure that everybody is under right now. This is a tough time. I kind of call it the economic ice age. Never before in the history that we would all remember has such an attack been made on humanity everywhere at one time. The good side of it is that it's helping us become better leaders. And I've been really encouraged by the way we pivoted and learnt new things. I don't know what the future will bring other than something better than today. So every morning, I really ask myself, how can I make the biggest difference today? And if I can't influence something, I let it go, because we don't have the time to be able to focus on things that we can't influence. And this is a great time for us as businesses to really understand the value of having a highly engaged workforce. You know, it's very sad that in most organizations, 70% of the people go to work every day and they're disengaged. And in these times, they're going to be even more disengaged. I'm very proud of the fact that our tribe has a 93% employee engagement. And it's because we've learned the power of servant leadership. You know, as leaders, we get up every day to create an environment where people go to work, they make a contribution to something bigger than themselves, they learn something new, they're protected and set free by a compelling set of values, and they go home happy. And our just cause as an organization is to make life better at home and at work. And, you know, in these times, there's a few things we've learned. It's not a time to be judgmental. It's a time when we have to forgive ourselves for being human, but more importantly, forgive others for being human. And it's okay. You know, I don't know how many calls I've been on WebEx or on Zoom, where Max, my dog, starts barking, where the man who's the trades guy, the pro who's doing our garden, has turned on the lawnmower. And we just have to forgive ourselves for that. I was actually on a call the other day, and the guy on the other side, when was in his office, and his little girl walked in to pick up some paper. Hi, Daddy. It was kind of a special moment. So we have to forgive ourselves for being human, and we have to forgive others for being human. It's really also a time to be mindful. It's a time to be mindful of others and understanding that, you know, reaching out. A great thing to do every day is to reach out to someone and touch them and ask them, how are you today? Because days change. I love the saying, you know, if you knew you weren't going to be here tomorrow, who would you call? And why are you waiting? So it's our time now to touch people in a special human way. We need to be intentional in what we do and but also set boundaries, because we want people in this time to be creative. We want to bring out the best juices we can. And what we tend to do in these sort of situations is go into over micromanagement mode. We want to control things. I was listening to a fabulous session today on LinkedIn, and the lady who was talking was Nicole. She was a past pilot, and she said something very interesting. She said, in times of turbulence, you have to ease off the controls. And I think that's what we're talking about today. We want to be present with our people and our families. We want to be disciplined. It's very easy to wander off the path in these times. And we want to be focused on what we really want to achieve on a daily basis. And teamwork is extremely important. It's extremely important for not only you to be successful now, but it's so important for us to help our teammates be successful. You know, in the book I wrote with Ken Blanchard, as Mel mentioned, our mission is not to mark people's papers, it's to help them get A's. So we need to make sure that we're being very clear of what does that A look like, so that we can reward and applaud people for the great things that they're doing. It's a shame that a lot of people only know they're doing a good job because no one yelled at them today. So now's the time for us to reach out and do that.
So, Garry, when we talked to you, we talked about what we would talk about on the show, and I think we could fill hours. And we talked about the soul-sucking CEO, that Type A CEO. So
let me get him. Hang on.
Oh, he's there. The soul-sucking CEO is here in Poway.
Yep.
There he is. That's Al, the soul-sucking CEO.
Can you tell us the backstory of Al? Because you brought him out in our first meeting together. How long have you had Al?
Well, Al's been around for a long time. I just brought him to life so I could talk about him. And Al, the soul-sucking CEO, has habits that don't really bring the best out in people. The person who's not the soul-sucking CEO has some attributes that are very important, and I can share what we think they are and what we've observed. The first one is the true leader involves their people and loves their people. And there's no problem in using the word love or care in a business. The true leader is always in servant leadership mode. Al is not a servant leader at all. He's self-serving. And our great leaders are expected to be competent. Al doesn't believe in the power of learning at all. Great leaders are connected and have emotional intelligence. Unfortunately, Al's ego eats his empathy every day instead of his empathy eating his ego. It's all about Al. We say at WD-40, we don't make mistakes. We have learning moments. And why do we say that? Well, one of the greatest fears people have is failure. And we like to take that word out and say, we can learn from every opportunity we have. So a learning moment to us is a positive or negative outcome of any situation that can be openly and freely shared for everybody. Great leaders have a heart of gold, but they have a backbone of steel because they have to care for their people. We say care, candor, accountability, and responsibility. And care is caring for your people. Candor is no lying, no faking, no hiding. I believe most people don't lie. But what I do believe happens is they fake and hide because of fear. Leaders know that micromanagement is not scalable. And leaders do what they say they're going to do. And finally, leaders value the gift of feedback. Al hates feedback. So these are the positive attributes that Al has very little of. And I'm sure we all know our Al somewhere in life. And we've all had the disadvantage of even maybe working with an Al that is really only caring about their ego and not about the success of other people.
And I think there's maybe some parts of those things that you mentioned that people might have as characteristics and attributes that they want to work on as well. So you might not encompass all those things, but there's definitely times when, you know, in kind of the situation that we're in today with coronavirus, I feel like some people are not looking for that feedback, you know, saying, hey, we're just doing it this way, we're gonna do it now, or they're buckling down now more than ever rather than having that humanity. So I feel like there's something to learn from. You might not be all of the characteristics of Al, but there's probably some things you can be working on.
Yeah, and I think it's just an awareness where, again, we're only human. We fall into, particularly the micromanagement one. This is a time when people will be tempted to very much micromanage. And management is not scalable, and it doesn't create creativity. I was listening to Simon Sinek this morning, and he was sharing something. He said he went out to everybody in his organization and all the people they work with, and he asked them, I want you to come tomorrow with 15 things we could do differently to make our business better. Now, he said, why did I ask for 15? He said, because if I asked for 3, we all would have come up with the same 3 because they would have been very obvious. But imagine if all of your pros and your professionals out there talked to their family, to the people in their organization, said, tell me 15 things that we might do tomorrow to take our business forward, and have an open conversation about them, their ideas, and who knows what will come out of them. Some marvelous things have happened. I learned a story about a restaurant chain. It was Texas Roadhouse Grill. And, they were closing down. They couldn't get, people in their into their restaurants. They did something like this, and some of their managers did some very creative things. Like one of them started showing movies on the back wall of the parking lot. So people were coming in like an ad hoc drive-in, coming in, watching a movie. They were serving food to the cars. So this all came out of not micromanaging, but having people be creative. This is a wonderful time to be creative and think outside the box, because we're being forced to. We're being forced to.
And I think there's some of those creative ideas too that will last beyond where we are now.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely. Garry, can you hold up Al one more time? So for our viewers watching, who here has worked for or with an Al before, who is a self-serving leader, doesn't foster creativity or teamwork, only here for themselves? Michelle says, yep, I've worked one. I have Pedro Sanchez. I have Alice West. I have Isaac, Jennifer. Ben said, I left that company years ago. Awesome. So the next part we're going to get into is how to avoid becoming an Al. I love how you're putting him in the pockets. We never forget Al. Never forget Al. Never become Al. So this next part that we're going to go into is how to avoid becoming Al. You may be having some Al characteristics and not even knowing it. So I'm going to pass it to Mel for our next question.
Yeah, so Garry, I know that one of the things that we've talked about before is having a strong leadership point of view. And having something that brings you to the table as a leader. How can folks who are trying to find their way in leadership begin to establish their own unique leadership point of view?
Well, leadership point of view is a bit like also finding your why. They're very, very close. So it's an understanding of what do you really stand for. And I have one of those. I get up every day, and it's my personal why statement. I get up every day to help people create positive, lasting memories. It's the most exciting thing that I do. And finding all the different ways to do that is what gives me my satisfaction. So everything I'm asked to do, I put it through the lens of, will this help create a positive, lasting memory? The reason I'm on the show today, Mel, is you're a friend of mine. You called me up and you said, would you mind doing it? I thought, yes, because hopefully I can share some learning that I've had. I'm in most circumstances probably wrong and roughly right. I'm consciously incompetent, and I'm only who I am today because I've been able to trust and work with some magnificent people. And that's the learning we have. So establishing your own why or your own leadership point of view is really important. You can share with people what's important to you in life and ask them what's important to them, and then work together to be able to complement each of that. Reading the book Start With Why is a good place to go. Simon Sinek really took the leadership point of view and turned it into something really powerful, like Start With Why. And I know he even has online courses that you can do now that are very, very affordable, that help take people through the leadership point of view process, which is very similar to what's my why. Most organizations know what they do. Some organizations know how they do it. Not many organizations know why they do what they do.
And I loved your point about also leaning into your employees and finding out what their why is, because the why of your organization or you as a leader is not necessarily the same as an individual coming into your business. So, what's important to them? Why do they get up every day and do the work? What's important to them? Speak to them in their language, the things that are important to them. And I think that's often something overlooked by leaders. They think we all have the same why. And guess what? Everyone's why, in fact, most people's why is not just to make money.
Well, it's interesting, our why at WD-40 Company is we exist to create positive, lasting memories, solving problems in factories, homes, and workshops of the world. That's our why. That's why we get up every day, is to help solve these problems. That's actually how we developed this product or this delivery system. We went out and we observed pros and tradesmen in workshops, and they said to us, could you help us get your product to hard to get to places? We listened to the people who knew, the pros and the tradesmen, and we said, I think we can do that. So we made this delivery system, which has this bendable straw on it that allows you to get WD-40, or in this case, the penetrant that we're giving away as a thank you to the pros, to hard to get to places.
Yeah, and I think it all starts a lot from empathy as well. So you're having empathy for your customer to even, spend the time with them, to sit there and listen, to understand what their problem actually is.
Yeah, they have the answers. We don't have the answers. We think we do, but in most cases we don't. That's why we go to our people and ask them.
So that brings me to my next question. What advice would you give to pros watching who are interested in identifying their leadership style? I really like what you said about identifying your mission as well. So if you could touch on that too, that would be great.
Yeah, so, if you want to identify your leadership style, there's a number of ways you can do it. There's tools you can use that are very descriptive to decide what leadership style you have. The one that Mel and I are used to is the DISC model, DISC, which is, a D is described as be brief, be bright, be gone. An I is someone who's building relationships all the time. An S is someone who likes a steadiness, and a C is someone who's so into data. And I had a great learning around that when I did my master's degree in leadership, too many years ago now, in 1999. Back then I was a turbo D, and I had someone working with me who was a turbo I. So when I met with them, they wanted to spend most of the introduction in a relationship building, and I wanted to get this thing done. And I learned that if I could adapt my style to theirs, I would get more out of them. Now, I'm so proud of myself when I do the DISC model. Now I've moved from a turbo D to an ID, but that took work. I had to have written on the palm of my hand for a long time, recognize people, praise them sincerely, be deliberate. And then it became a natural state for me, which now I just am so grateful for the wonderful people that we have in our company. And we wouldn't be who we are without this wonderful group of people.
Yeah, I feel like when you're talking about employees, a lot of our pros, because they start off as owner operators and then they go to hire their first person, they think that their brand is tied directly to, their output, their craftsmanship. This has got the Roland style on it, the Roland's craftsmanship style, and it's my way or the highway. So that leads me to a question, which I think a lot of our pros have, is when you take that next step and you start to hire, how do you make sure that you can really give the ownership mentality to your employees, so that way they're taking ownership of your brand as a company, as you as an individual as well, but you're also empowering them to do their best work? Like, what's your strategy there, and how would you kind of counsel our pros?
Great question. The first one is to be very deliberate around what expectations are. So, what's important to us as an organization. The second one is you have to have a set of values that are clearly defined, that absolutely empower the employee. Now, we have a set of values at WD-40 Company. Our first value is we value doing the right thing. The second one is we value creating positive, lasting memories in all of our relationships. These are hierarchical. The last value, the sixth one, is we value sustaining the WD-40 economy. And because they're hierarchical, people can make decisions. And I'll give you an example. We could make a product that was less expensive than the product we make now if we put chemicals in our brands that were Prop 65 chemicals. We have no Prop 65 chemicals in our products whatsoever. So that is living our first value. We value doing the right thing. If the first value was we value sustaining the WD-40 economy, which was making profit, then we would probably be, our people would probably be encouraged to use cheaper chemicals that are not good for the health and of our people in the field. So if you've got these values, the people then make the decision. So first one is, do you have clear accountability? Do you have a clear purpose? Why do we get up every day? And what's important to our organization? And then do we have a clear set of values that empower people to make decisions when you're not around and set them free?
Yeah, I feel like that, just having a sequence of the values clearly written, clearly articulated, and expectations are there, really helps empower them to make those decisions. Because ultimately, if you're going to grow your business, you're not going to be there at all. You're just going to be working on other strategic parts of the business and allow them to be doing that. I feel like that is probably one of the most difficult steps, because you know what? Someone might not do 100% of what you're doing. Maybe they're going to do 80%, but as long as they're following that decision framework of following your values, they're going to make that right decision 9 times out of 10. And that's okay, because that's how you're going to be able to go work on other things and continue to grow. That's super helpful.
That is so true. And the reason we did this, 20 some years ago, at our company, 80% of our business was in the United States, and we wanted to go global. Today, 65% of our business is outside of the United States, and we operate in 176 countries around the world. Micromanagement wasn't scalable. We had to come up with a clear purpose and a clear set of values so people could go to work and do what they needed to do. And it's worked for us along the way. Culture is very important. And here's an algorithm that I'll give you for culture. And in fact, I think I have it printed off here. I can probably hold it up to the camera. So here it is. It says culture equals, and the equals sign means what happens when values plus behavior in parentheses are done consistently. So if you want to build a great culture, you have a clear set of values, and it means it happens when you have a clear set of values. You then are brave enough and loving enough to your tribe to be able to redirect bad behavior, and you do it every day, every day, every day, every day, every day, every day, until it becomes embedded in your business, and then it becomes the natural state of your business.
The two sayings that I love there is what you permit, you promote. So if you let someone get away with it, you might as well just be making it part of your process. So at Trader Joe's, that was one of our favorite sayings, because every day in a store, someone does something unsafe. And if you just walk by and watch that person standing on the freezer case, stocking above it, you might as well be promoting that. So what you permit, you promote, and then what gets recognized gets repeated. So when you see something, say something. When you see something good, say something. And you know what? You see so much more good in your business than you do bad. So what you permit, you promote, and what gets recognized gets repeated. Two of my favorites.
Beautiful. I love those. They're beautiful, Mel. And what a great time now to be building, these strong cultures in our business, because we will get through this. This too will pass. And if we take this as an opportunity, as a learning moment to really look at how do we build a culture that's empowering and engaging and dynamic, when we come out of it, and we'll be soaring like the eagles that we really can be again, because we've had this little pause to reflect and be a little more deliberate.
Absolutely. Garry, can you hold up that paper again? And then everyone who's watching right now, whether you're on your phone or on your computer, take a screenshot. So perfect. Roland's even taking a picture. Or Garry, you can peek your face out from behind it.
There you go.
Everyone take a screenshot.
I got it.
Awesome. Everyone got it? So the next question I want to ask about is innovation at WD-40. You touched on it a bit, but how do you continue to be a visionary in your company while still upholding your leadership principles? Because I feel like that could, as you're trying to innovate in your company, you could tend to get selfish with that because it's your company, you're hyper-focused on that. So how do you balance the two together?
Well, I think, again, it goes back, listen to the customer, listen to the end user. We've innovated with a number of new delivery systems over time for one reason, and that's to make the work job easier. We want the pros that use our product to get in, do their job, do it safely, do it quickly, and get out, because that's how they move on to the next job. So listening to and respecting the feedback from your end users is very, very, very important. We extended our product into a range of specialty products. And as I mentioned earlier, one of the key deliverables was we were going to deliver best-in-class and safest products we could to our end users and our pros, because our second value is we value creating positive, lasting memories in all of our relationships. And if we're delivering product that's Prop 65 or something like that, and their products are out there like that, that's, to me, not going to create any positive, lasting memories. And I had a personal touch in that too. My brother was a tradesman. He was an electrostatic painter in Australia, and unfortunately, he died of cancer. And he developed that by using products that had cancer-causing chemicals in them. And from that day on, I said, this will never happen again within our company. So listen to the people, best-in-class products, continue to deliver solutions that make work better, and be very deliberate about it.
So you've already started to talk about something that we wanted to touch on, which is the issue of employee safety. So you talked about how you keep your product safe for those who use it. We're also hearing from our pros that during these uncertain times, they have employees who have nervousness about returning to work, beginning to work in homes and things. What are you doing at WD-40, or what advice would you have for our viewers that could apply to their businesses on how to keep employees safe, or at least to talk about and think about employee safety during these times?
Yeah, thanks, Mel. When we started this journey back on January 17th, we had 3 primary objectives. The number one objective was the safety and the well-being of our tribe members. So I think the best advice we can give from our learning is be very transparent. Ask them, what are they concerned about? Why are they concerned about it? And be transparent about working with them. We've just started, and in fact, our organizational development and human resource people just put out today a protocol of how we're going to think about going back to work. And we've talked about red, green, yellow, and white. So our first stage will be a red stage, which there are certain things that we are going to mandate around distancing, cleaning of our premises, whatever. The second stage is a little less, but also being very clear with people that we want them to feel safe. We can't force them to feel safe. We want them to feel safe. The way to help them feel safe is for us to provide an environment of clear safety with a lot of transparency.
And how are you all thinking about your business and the world moving forward? You mentioned being so incredibly global. How is business going to be different?
Well, when we come out of this economic ice age that we're in, it is going to be different. I think we've all learned a lot of news tools. I've certainly become a lot more proficient on Zoom and WebEx than I ever have before. But I can't answer that question directly, but what I do know we're doing now is we're capturing all of the learning. I went out to our tribe globally a week ago and I said, please share what has changed in your life and what you have learned in the last 7 or 8 weeks while we've been working virtually. So they're sharing back to us all of those learnings, and we're going to bring them all together with our leadership team and look at what are the things that we can take from this to go forward to make it better than it is today, which in fact is one of our values. One of our values is we value making it better than it is today. So we're going to make sure that we don't waste the opportunity of being a curious learning organization during this time.
So, Garry, we have a lot of questions from our audience, and I've been watching them, and there are some great ones in there. So if you haven't popped in there, make sure to upvote them. We're going to ask some of these questions to Garry, and then we will let you know once more how to get your free bottle of WD-40. There are some awesome questions here. So I'll start us off. This is from an anonymous attendee. How do you deal with conflicting leadership? Even on the minor details, things change often depending on who is in charge that day. Things can change even in the same day sometimes. How would you handle that?
Well, leadership is not about being in charge. Leadership is about taking care of the people in your charge. And I love, well, you know, what Mel shared earlier, you know, what you promote, you get, and what you don't stop, you get more of, basically, is what she said. So again, leadership itself is a bit like being on Broadway, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week with the lights on. You're always being observed as the leader. And I have a zero tolerance policy for poor leadership behaviors in the organization. And our values help us do that as well. I'll give you a very quick example of that. Our value about creating positive, lasting memories in all of our relationships. We were in a leadership meeting not long ago, and one of our leaders came in and they were not creating positive, lasting memories. And it wasn't a natural state for this person. So when the meeting was over, I called this person aside and I said, let's just go for a walk, could we? And we walked out into our parking lot. Mel knows where our building is. And I started looking under a car, and I looked in the trash can, and I looked behind a tree. And this person said, what the hell are you doing, Garry? I said, I'm looking for you. And they said, what do you mean you're looking for me? I said, the you I know and love was not in that room today. Help me understand why the best leader didn't come to work today. And we had an open conversation. I did a little coaching. That person went back and went to the people who were in that meeting and apologized for, you know, bringing some toxic air into that meeting, because that toxic air left that meeting and went with those leaders to other places in the company. Interestingly enough, the next day, I observed that the people were going to that person and checking in on them and seeing how their day was today. So the answer to the question is, you have to be deliberate. You have to love someone enough to be brave and courageous enough to be able to go and redirect the behavior right then, but not in a way that means them harm, in a way that means love and care.
Yeah, and I think another thing sorry, Mel, another thing to add on to what you were saying is oftentimes when people are, you know, having that feeling of like, well, who's in charge? Sometimes just leading by example too. You mentioned they're on Broadway. The spotlight's always on them. They're watching you. So if they're watching you take out the trash, Brooks has done a great job of this too, as their COO. He's sitting there cleaning some of the dishes. And literally just by doing that, people are like, oh crap, I should really be, if he's cleaning the dishes, I should be cleaning the dishes. And I feel like that's a component of what you just mentioned as well.
It is. And I don't mind washing the dishes in the sink at our place either.
And every office has a sink full of dishes. I work with every age group. This is not, don't blame the millennials. All of us, the Xers, the boomers, we all leave the dirty coffee mugs in the kitchen in an office. It just is what it is. So great. So I have a product question for you, Garry, from Jacqueline Goodrich. She says, what are 3 surprising uses for WD-40?
Okay, I'll give you 3 that I think are really funny. There was a lady in the Midwest who had a bird feeder, and the bird feeder was sitting kind of on a pole and had a dish on the top, and she put the bird feed in it. Well, there were some pesky squirrels who used to climb up this pole and eat the bird feed. So she thought to herself, how am I going to protect the squirrels and protect the bird? So what did she do? She used to spray the pole with WD-40. The squirrel couldn't get up the pole. The squirrel was safe. The birds got fed. The lady in the Midwest was happy. Another one that's really funny. There was a burglar in Colorado who was breaking into a facility, and he was entering through the air conditioning duct. To slide through this air conditioning duct, he actually stripped off and was naked, and he got stuck in the air conditioning duct. So they called the paramedics, and the police came, and they sprayed WD-40 around the outside edge so they could pull him out from the air conditioning duct. So that was another one. A third one for you, I'll take you to Hong Kong. there was a python snake that was caught in the underbody of a public transport bus in Nathan Road, Hong Kong. And how did they get the python out? They actually sprayed around the suspension part of the bus so that the snake could move. The snake moved out into the street and off into the hills of Hong Kong.
Oh my
3
God.
true stories.
I feel like that needs to be a book. That's just like random things WD-40 has been used for, and it's like an international bestseller of just all the things you know WD-40 has been used for.
If you haven't
great
searched
marketing
WD-40
campaign.
memes, WD-40 memes are the best.
Well, there actually was a book written years ago by 2 handy guys. It was a little takeaway one that had all the uses for WD-40. And I'm not sure if it's up yet. It was down for a day, but on our website, we actually have 2,000 uses listed for WD-40. Back in the year 2000, we went out and we did a promo and we asked all of our end users to share their experiences. We got over 250,000 entries and we distilled those down to the 2,000 most popular uses for WD-40. And I think the page is back up. They were doing some renovation or updates of our website, but it would be on WD-40.com or WD-40company.com.
That's awesome. Roland, why don't you ask our next one? There's so many great ones in here.
Hold on. I just like this one here. Hi, Gary. What's the average life of a bottle of WD-40? It seems like your bottles have a lifetime supply in them. Am I using mine wrong?
Well, it depends who you are. People like me, who you would probably find on a Sunday afternoon sitting on the back porch having a beer, I use about 40 cents worth of WD-40 a year. Many of our pros that are on this call right now and our artisans are using between $40 and $70 worth of WD-40 a year. So 60% of our consumption actually goes into construction and trades, maintenance, repair and overhaul, and artisans and passionate hobbyists. So, but if you go on that site and look up the 2,000 uses, I'm sure that can help you empty that bottle a little quicker than it is now. And we would be most grateful.
That is awesome. So there is another question from Jacqueline Goodrich. She comes every night with incredible questions. If you do not have an employee handbook, where or how would you suggest starting one?
You could simply do it on a web page. You could do it in a PowerPoint. And it doesn't have to be the biggest and most complex thing ever. Just put down the 10 basic things that you think are important. I'm sure Mel has some great tips on that. She's one of the best people in the world.
Agreed.
Yeah, we probably should do a whole toolkit for small businesses around human resources. But I think to Gary's earlier statements, it's not just your policies on tardiness or attendance or if you get vacation, but to start with the why, start with the big thing, start with why are we in business? Who are we? What's our mission as a company? You can find templates online for free, reliable ones with just about all the employment law you need for your state and your county. But what you can't find is your values. You can't find your purpose. So look inside, start with your why, and start writing that introduction to the templated employee handbook that you can Google and find online.
And again, I can't emphasize more, people want to work for purpose-driven organizations. Imagine if our purpose was to lubricate. That doesn't really motivate. But our purpose is to create positive, lasting memories, solving problems in factories, homes, and workshops of the world. So if someone asks me what business we're in, I say we're in the memories business. And that's really what we're about. And that's our purpose, is to help people make life better at home and at work.
So Gary, I've got a really important question here for you. So I feel like just exactly what we talked about. We want to help reduce the friction of our pros putting together this employee handbook. And that key, that cornerstone is finding your why. And as a company, and maybe as an individual too, we love to have other great guests such as yourself on here. Do you think you could introduce us to Simon and get him on the show to share some information with our pros?
Yeah, of course I will. I'll send an introduction, and let's see if we can get him on. He's a good friend, and I'll see what we can do. I
That would
promise
be
I'll be in touch
awesome.
with Mel.
That would be awesome.
All right. Should we tell everyone again how to get the WD-40 before we sign off here? Gary, will you tell us what we're getting?
Yeah,
it's
let's look at the product.
WD-40 specialist fast acting penetrant. It's a new product. It's Prop 65 free, and it has this wonderful easy reach delivery system that can get it anywhere you want.
Yep. And all you got to do, guys, if you're watching, we made it really easy to get your hands on this. So we got the pallet sitting in Scott, who's our CMO, in his place. We're going to go ship them out to you guys. All you have to do is text WD-40, so no dash, so just WD-40 because you can't use special characters, WD-40 to 31996. So if you text it, there will be a little link. All you got to do is click on it and tell us what your address is so we know where to ship it over to you. So make sure that you text WD-40 to 31996. We'll post it right in here for you guys. Also, all of you guys that are watching here tonight, we're going to send a blog recap with all of this. And so you have another chance to go fill it out, because literally Scott's got a pallet full of these at his place. And this is for you guys. And it's just very, very nice that Garry and WD-40 is just giving these out to you guys, because obviously we're all going through some tough times. And I feel like this is a great way to reduce some of that friction.
Definitely. And so maybe while I ask Garry, our final question, Roland, can you pull up that picture of Scott in front of the pallet so we can share it on the screen? I feel like our pros just need to see really what we're working with here, and that they need to go claim their free bottles from Garry and his team. So,
oh my gosh, where did he post that again? Where was that picture?
It's in general.
Was it in general? Hold on, I gotta pull this up because this was hilarious.
So Roland, you pull it up. Garry, so we like to leave our audience with a challenge from our special guest. If they were to do one thing tomorrow morning, what would it be?
Get up tomorrow morning and ask yourself this question: how can I make the biggest difference in my work, in my company today? And then do it.
Simple as that. You heard the man.
Oh, look, there it is.
So,
we were not kidding. Look at this palette. Yeah, so, there's a lot. Hold on.
Okay.
There's Scott. He's trialing one right now for you guys just to make sure it works. And here it is. Hopefully he's not putting on his computer screen, but maybe he knows something that we don't know.
Oh my gosh. That is just the funniest picture ever.
He's probably trying to reduce the friction of his keyboard and typing. You know, those the scissor keyboards on the Macs aren't doing good these days.
Mm-hmm. There it is.
All right.
So make sure you claim your free WD-40. We're going to post it one more time in here. So again, it's just WD-40, no dash in there, to 31996. And I'll post it one more time here. Kendra's been posting it in Facebook. There you go. So,
and if anybody would like their own little owl doll, you know, I've got some of these. I'd be happy to send out to some folks as well, so they can give Mel a.
Put it in the notes. Put it in the notes. Say I want type A, and we'll figure out a way to get it to you.
Okay.
No
problem.
There we go. We already have people saying I want type A. Here we go.
Garry, thank you so much for coming on. Mel, thank you for introducing us to Garry. It's so awesome to watch you speak and work together. And also, Garry, thank you and your team for your generosity with those WD-40 cans. Originally, we thought, oh, they're going to be little samples. Nope, Garry shipped that entire pallet. Garry and Holly shipped that whole pallet over to Scott's house. So I'm going to post it one more time in here and then one more time in Facebook. But thank you guys for watching live. We hope that this was beneficial and helpful, and you will do your one takeaway from Garry tomorrow morning, which is, Garry, one more time for our audience.
How can I make the biggest difference today?
You heard him.
Love it.
All right.
Thanks again, Garry.
Yes, we will see you back tomorrow night, same time, 5 p.m. Pacific time. We are sharing employment data with Gusto. So we'll see you tomorrow. Have a great rest of your night.
Stay awesome.
Bye, guys.
Thanks, Garry.